Down4Sound amplifiers. That's right. More and more models are hitting the market as we speak, and some are yet to come. Excited about all these fancy colors. Yeah, they remind you, if you know, the old school US amps. The one at the bottom here is a US Amps VLX200, and the newer models kind of look like that. So I'm digging what they've done. So let's take a look at this JP95 we just got in and check out this brilliant red. We're going to show the amp off here in just a minute. Let's talk about the components. First off, you get the RJ45 style cable for connecting the amp to the bass remote. You get Allen's keys. And here is that Mac Daddy bass remote, which has voltage, it has temperature, it has almost everything that you need. The clip light as well. Very cool, very awesome bass remote here. It also has a little slot in the back where you can adjust the voltage to match your system. And then you have the manual. Let's take a look at the manual a little closer and find out about some of the specs. This is a full range 5-channel amplifier, Class D, 2 ohm stereo, 4 ohm bridge stable for the 4 channels. The 5th channel is stable 1 ohm and 1 ohm inputs, all that good stuff. And check out this plethora of switches. Snoop Dogg would be proud. On this side, we've got 6 RCA inputs. Now you can decide whether you want to use 1 through 4 or if you want to use all 6 inputs. That's up to you. Just put the switch on whichever one you want. Unfortunately, there's no option for 2-channel inputs, and we prefer to use 1 through 4 inputs for our testing, so that's what we're going to go with. Here you can see channel 1 through 2, the gain and high pass filter. There is no low pass on channels 1 and 2. That's your only option there is high pass. For channels 3 and 4, though, you have a lot more options. You have the gain, the high pass filter, crossover switch for high pass, full or low pass, the low pass control, and also a ×10. So if you want to run this with tweeters, you can do that as well. Channel 5 settings include the gain, subsonic, low pass filter, and a bass boost, which you probably don't want to use that. Just use your bass remote for controlling the bass level is what I would suggest. And speaking of that, there's a remote bass connection, the RJ45 style connector. On the opposite end of the amplifier, we have the power inputs as well as the speaker outputs. The power inputs are 1.0 and they're nicely spaced, so you can use the dual inputs if you want. You probably don't need it though with this amp, but it is nice that they did space them out. You can also see in the center the power, protect, and clip lights. There's clip lights for channels 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and the sub channel, and a power and a protect LED. A lot of stuff going on. The 4-channel mode, this uses the side-by-side connections for channels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the bass channel is actually up top and below. I'll show that in a second. If you want to bridge channel 1 positive, 2 negative, 3 positive, and 4 negative, that will bridge the amp for you. Sub channel is over and under, positive on top, minus on bottom. Now again, this amp is beautifully red anodized. You can see the finish here. It just really stands out, especially when the sun hits it, it just pops. Again, those who remember the old school US Amps models, these were kind of modeled after those designs and just really bring back a cool retro design if you ask me. They just really stand out here in this market of bland amplifiers. So this also has something on the bottom, but I'll show you that in a little bit. But for now, let's talk about the dimensions. 17.7 inches long, 7.4 inches wide, 2.2 inches on the height, and all the millimeter equivalents are there as well for people outside the US. And the ratings, 120 watts times 4 plus 400 by 1 at 4 ohms, 200 by 4 plus 700 by 1 at 2 ohms, 900 by 1 at 1 ohm sub-channel only. That gives us a total RMS power of 1700 watts is what the amplifier is rated. You can also bridge the 4 channels down to 2, 240 by 2 at 8 ohms, 400 by 2 at 4 ohms. It is not recommended for bridging anything less than 4 ohms. Now let's fire up the good old SMD, Demore Engineering Amplifier Dyno, to do our RMS power output testing of this amplifier. Before we do that, make sure you check the video description for links to Wilson Audio merch. Smash me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like this content. More like it coming all the time. Now let's talk about the Dyno Tests. There's 3 different tests: certified, uncertified, and dynamic. Certified test takes us up to 1% THD, uncertified takes us up to the clipping point, and dynamic is a dynamic tone mimicking IHF 202 standard. Here we have the amp on the bench, wired up with 1.0 for power and ground. We have 12 gauge for the main channels, and we have 8 gauge on the sub channel. Fire the amp up, you can see the lights come on. Here's the bass remote, the light's there. And first up, we're going to do 4-channel test. We're going to bridge it down to 2, and the channels are gain matched at 9 dB overlap. First up, we're going to run 8 ohms. It's rated 240 by 2 at 14.4. The sub channel is also loaded at 4 ohms. Here we go, certified first. And yes, well over that rated power, 343 and 334.
Yeah, boy!
Next up, we're going to switch the dyno here to try the uncertified track, which will take us up to the clipping point. Again, 40 Hertz is the test track. We do have the sub channel loaded as well. 8 ohms bridge to clipping, 345, 331. Break that down into 4-channel mode. That's 170 watts times 4, where it's rated 120 by 4. So that's a pretty big difference. Pretty killer. As far as dynamic, here's a 40 Hertz pulse tone, sending the dynamic into the amp. We're checking out 332 and 366. Next up, 4 ohms, rated 400 by 2, 14.4. Again, the sub is loaded at 4 ohms. Let's see what we get here on the 4 channels bridge to 2, and check this out. 530 and 508, where it's rated 400 by 2. So that's like 260 watts per channel at 2 ohms times 4. Where it's rated 200 times 4. That's awesome. Uncertified up to the clipping point, 545 and 509. Again, well above the rated power. And we're not quite even at 14.4 volts. Dynamic, let's send the dynamic pulse into the amp. Look at this. We're pushing 600 watts. That's 300 per channel. And it looks like we may get it. Yep, right at it, 600 watts. Times 2, where it's rated 400 by 2. Now let's do the sub-channel test. We also have the 4 channels loaded at 4 ohms to simulate that you have this hooked up to main speakers as well. 4 ohms is rated 400 watts at 14.4. Here we go, 40 Hertz track. First up, certified. What do we get? The 1% THD. 482 watts at 14.24. All right, let's reset the dyno here and try the uncertified test up to the clipping point. 40 Hertz. And it looks like we're going to get 500. Yes, right at 500 watts. At 14.3, so even though we're a tenth under voltage wise, we're still getting almost, well, right at 100 watts more than the rated power. Dynamic, 40 Hertz pulse, right at 500 watts again, 501 at 14.3. Now the 2 ohm test on the sub channel is rated 700 watts at 14.4. Again, the 4 channels are loaded at 4 ohms. Let's see what we get here. Certified test is first up to 1% THD and easily get by that 700 watts. 816, 14.42. Let's reset the dyno here for the uncertified test, which takes us up to the clipping point. Keeps counting up. 845, 14.24, 145 watts over the rated power. Percentage wise, that's actually really good because 700 watts is not big power on subs according to you guys. Dynamic, check this out. Rated 700, pushing 880. Oh yeah. All right, now here's the big test. 1 ohm on the sub channel. It's rated 900 watts. Again, the 4 channels are loaded at 4 ohms. Let's see what we get. 1% THD. Can we get the 900 watts? Oh yes, 1126 watts. That's what I'm talking about. Now let's reset the dyno for the uncertified test. 1 ohm. 40 Hertz. See what we get here up to the clipping point. We're pushing 1200, 1183 at 14.18. Nicely done here, Down4Sound. Let's try that dynamic pulse, see if we can beat that 1200 watts. Can it jump over 1200 dynamically? Oh, yes. Oh, over 1300. Look at that. It's funny because I'm voicing over this like I haven't seen this before. I'm just going through this just like you guys. I'm excited. 1311 watts at 13.8 volts. Now on to the results. We'd call this 1 amp to do it all. That's what 5-channel amps are designed for. And in this case, this one beat all of its ratings by quite a bit. And I know the power is not everything, so we're also going to do some more stuff here coming up. We're going to do some segments where we do some sound quality. Of course, you can't really portray that over YouTube, but I will tell you that we'll get to that here in just a minute. Now, what's inside? We'd say electronicals and stuff. If you flip the amp over, it has a real nice piece of Lexan acrylic, and it has about 8 screws here to hold that on. And we take that off and we have to disconnect the fan, but check out how thick this acrylic is. Look at that. Yeah, it's thick. But anyway, once we get the bottom off, we can see the internals. You can see the 4-channel section. Also, here's the 4-channel section. Here are the outputs. This amplifier does have 2 different power supplies, so it has one for the 4-channel section and also one for the sub-channel section, which is nice. That way they can kind of work independently of each other. As far as caps go, they're all 105 degrees Celsius, 80 volt 3300 for the sub-channel, and then we have 63 volt 3300 microfarad for the 4-channel side. And for input filtering, we have 35 volt 2200 microfarad, again 105 degrees Celsius caps. Overall, the components look nice, especially for a budget-minded amplifier. This is more of a mid-price amp. I think the introductory price is budget, but you need to check that out in the video description. I'm not even going to post price here because I'm certain it's going to change. Next up, Do It Bump Dough. Let's try to flex them L7s. We're going to try the ELAC debut bookshelf speakers as well as the Kicker Quad Box. Let's see how this amp does with it. I'm going to intentionally bump up the bass on this one. Anno Domini beats. And that way we can get an idea of what the subwoofer channel can do. Alright guys, now we're just going to use a sub channel of this Down4Sound JP95. I've got the front and rears disconnected. Just want to find out how beefy the sub channel is. So we're going to try this woofer test from Bass. This is from Spotify. We're going to try it on the Kicker Quad Box. And let's see how it sounds. Ready? Here we go. Getting down is all I can say. Wow. Now it's too bad I can't share some of my favorite tracks with you guys, but I did listen to this amp for a couple of hours, and I was impressed with the sheer power output as well as the sound quality. It sounded great to me. Love the control of the bass knob, so overall thumbs up. Now let's check out the things that I really liked. It is an entire system amp. It exceeded the rated power, has the excellent featured bass knob, Tiffany style RCAs, 1.0 inputs, the beautiful acrylic bottom to show off the insides of the amp, and this beautiful red anodizing. It just really stands out in the world of just standard black or gray amplifiers, so I dig that. Things could be better. The intro price is not going to last long. Minimum of 4 inputs. You can't just run 2. Bass knob is plastic, not metal. Steeper slope for the crossover will be nice. It's 12 dB per octave. There is a limited supply of these available. And as far as this or the JP8 and JP84 combo, that would be a difficult decision. I've already tested the JP8. Check the video description for a link to that video. I will test the JP84, which is the 4-channel model. Right now, the 2 of those amps bundled together are the same price as this one. I really like this one though for a single amp solution for those who just want a single amp to do everything. This amp was sent to me by JP at Down4Sound. I am an affiliate. With all that known, you guys know I'm going to tell you what I think, show the real numbers. I like the amp. Big D, I'm out of here. All right, only the OGs stick around to the end. I'm going to show you some thermal imaging here from the FLIR camera. And then I'm actually going to show another sub-channel test coming up. We're going to check out the 0.8 ohm certified and dynamic runs. Stay tuned and watch that. Here it comes. Down4Sound JP95, we have a sub-channel wired to 0.8. We'll try certified and then dynamic. If it'll pass the certified without blowing up. Let's try it out and see what we get. 40 hertz, here we go. $1,212 watts, 14.36. All right, let's go back. Try dynamic. Yeah, boy. 1531, 14.49.